Hi everyone. I hope everyone's having a good day, night, whatever. A little background music. But wow, what's up? Hi Adam. I see that it's snowing where you are. I cannot encourage snacking on snow, however. Um, Stay away from yellow snow. If you ever made snow cream, I guess I'm not supposed to encourage eating snow, but snow cream is very good with fresh snow. Um, But I'm really excited to be back. We're here for your first website, part two. We're going to be focusing on CSS. We're going to be kind of walking through like a CSS worksheet to really hone in those skills. Because CSS is something that if you're going into web development will stick around for literally ever. I work at like a large corporate company. We're working on websites and I still struggle with CSS, including Flexbox. So that is the skills that we will be honing in today. So I want to first start out with, want to first start out and make sure that everyone has had a chance to check in. It's hackpack/YFW with Mara 2, and or no, it's hackpack YFW 2 check in, and then all the slides that I'll be going over will be at hackpack YFW with Mara 2. I'm glad the snow's clean. Okay, so without further ado, here we are. This is part two in a three-part series. JavaScript will be tomorrow, where we'll be working on a higher, lower number game and a simple way to put it on web. Thank you, Adam, for saying that in chat. So make sure to check in so you can get those points. So a little bit about me. Hi, my name is Mara. I've been an MLH coach since November 2020. I actually first got my start in websites and use that website skills to then go to hackathons and be able to win prizes as a beginner. It actually opened the way for me to start software development and get more confident in my skills. I'm actually a full stack web developer to this day. I've been working my full-time job for about 9 months now. And I use React and TypeScript, but underneath it all, I still use those HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills literally every day. Okay, so today what we'll be working on is we're gonna go over kind of a quick flashback of HTML, just very basic, so that way we kind of remember what we're learning. And then we'll talk more about CSS and we'll go over some practice together. Does Mara still drink milk? Why? In course, if it's oat. I've actually been experimenting with different milks. Cashew milk. Cashew milk is pretty solid. I put that in my coffee with some condensed milk. Condensed milk is not lactose free, but it's different because it has a bunch of sugar, so to me it doesn't count. Okay, so first, what is a website? If you're super new to website design, or website development, you still know what a website is. For example, use Google probably every day or Bing now that there's the ChatGPT feature on it. That's fun, AI. But if you're going on a website or you're going online and you're using any kind of web page, that's a website, including the MLH website shown here. If you've ever wanted to see the code behind it, you can actually just inspect element, and this is where you can see all that CSS code. So if you ever wondered how to do that, you can just right click, go down to inspect, and that beautiful screen over there will pop up so you can see all the code there. So when it comes to coding your first website, there are three programming languages to know: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If we think about this in the case of a body, HTML is the skeleton, it's the bones. HTML determines what is shown on the page and is, like the backbone to everything else. Without HTML, you don't have a website. CSS is going to be like your skin, whether you think that's like, your physical skin, or in video games like Minecraft, Valorant, or Fortnite, you have skins. It just makes it look prettier. It allows to change up the look, and that's what CSS does. Then there's also JavaScript. JavaScript, if you think about it, it's like the muscle. It's not super necessary, but it does help a lot with the user's interaction with the web page. You can do a lot more things, give it a little oomph, So the way this this way the stream is going to work is I'm going to go over a lot of slides. I'm going to talk a lot in the beginning, but it's a-okay because we'll actually go towards practicing at the end. I just want to make sure that I prime you ahead of time, so when we come up to this worksheet, you won't be going like, where is this from? I don't understand it. So that's why we're structuring it the way it is. So before I begin, I just want to remind everyone, if you haven't been drinking water, if you haven't gotten a snack or anything, if you're hungry, make sure you listen to your body. Go grab a quick snack, go grab a bottle of water or things like that. I got my bottle of water here. Can't forget it. So make sure that you are taking care of yourselves before we start into the stream, because it's going to be, like an hour and a half. Adam, I can't say you're wrong, and it pains me, but make sure you're also hydrating. That's important. Okay, so we're gonna go over HTML basics. So first, HTML, if you were here yesterday, is made out of elements. There's 3 major parts. There's the opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. So computers are, as of right now, we start having smarter computers, but in our code IDEs, our integrated development environments, they're not super smart. They're just going to do exactly whatever code you give it. So if you think about it this way, the opening tag is you telling the computer like, hey, I'm about to write something in HTML that puts code that looks like this onto the page. So in this case, the opening tag has a P inside of it. That P stands for paragraph. So you're trying to do a paragraph element. So you're telling the computer, hey, I'm about to do a paragraph element. Then the computer's like, okay, cool, opening tag, paragraph element, got it, what's inside? And then you give it the content. Then you have a closing tag, and that closing tag is like, okay, computer, wrap it up, we're done. There's no more paragraphs after this, it's just that. So it's just the opening tag and the closing tag are just a way to package it up nicely, and that content is going to be what's displayed on the website. So we also have something called classes. So we're going to be focusing more on CSS, and CSS has to do with the styling of HTML. We, of course, have to have basic HTML, but we won't worry too much about that. What we will worry about is the connection from HTML to CSS. And one of the ways to do that is through classes. Classes are one way that HTML can communicate with CSS. So it's a many-to-many relationship. Each class can have multiple elements, and each element can have multiple classes. If you look here, you see that this is the HTML opening tag. It has a div element, a division element inside of it. Then there's this attribute called class, and then you can assign it a value called container. Okay, so you have a div element with an attribute called class that you give it a value, and it's going to be container. All these classes here are describing, all these classes are doing is giving a label to this HTML so that later when we write code in CSS, we're like, hey, you remember the element that had the class container? This is like what we're gonna do to it. We're gonna give it margins, padding, border, whatever. Or, hey, do you remember that paragraph element that had the blue text class? We're going to make that text color blue. Is container element optional? I'm not sure if I understand the question, but so to kind of break this down, you have this div. It's a div element. Okay, it's an element, div element. Then inside of an element, you have these things called attributes, which are essentially extra data that you can put inside your element. The attribute that we're focusing on right now for this slide is class, and we can assign that class a value, and that value will be called container. So you don't need a class attribute with your element, However, is very useful if you're going to do CSS styling. So class is a many-to-many relationship. Now imagine kind of a similar thing, but with IDs. And of course, these attributes have multiple uses, but we're just focusing on the CSS part of it right now. So we have classes, and we also have IDs. IDs are going to be one-to-one. So just like classes, just like a class, you have the name attribute, and then you assign it to a value. These IDs, if you want to have like good code practice, you want to make them very specific names. So for example, if I have, it looks like this is supposed to say ID, pretend it says ID. But if I have an ID and it says main, then there's only really going to be one main ID. And the same thing with like these dog pics if it were ID. But if you notice here, the structure for ID, this says ID equals main. It's that same structure for class equals and then whatever. Okay. So now let's go into the actual CSS portion. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions? I know this is a live stream, so not everyone is sending things in chat, but if you feel comfortable, please do. I highly recommend it. It also helps me understand where you are. I want to make sure that I answer any questions before I move on, because I know how quickly it can like get confusing. But if there's I'll probably talk for a little bit, wait for any questions. If there aren't none, I'm going to move on. However, if you have any questions at any point throughout this stream, feel free to send it into chat. Also, if anyone's just now joining, make sure to go to Hackpack YFW2 check-in, and that's how you can get the points for attending the stream. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about CSS. Just like HTML has elements, okay? HTML has elements. CSS is going to have a declaration block. So the declaration block syntax looks like this. You have a selector, a property, and a value. The selector is going to be what do you want this CSS to affect? So for example, you can use an element name like P. So all paragraph tags are going to have this change. So an example here, so this P is the selector. So you're saying, hey computer, whatever is inside this declaration block, I want it to affect all paragraph tags. Then you're going to go inside. Then you have this property. This property is going to be whatever you want. There's a lot of different options. You can do margin, padding, whatever, but we're going to focus right now on color. So we're saying that the color, the text color, is going to be whatever value we have here, which is blue. So what does this declaration block do? Can anyone tell me in their own words what the declaration block does? That's for, don't worry about those right now. That's for when you have fun with CSS on your own. What if there are multiple nested elements in a P tag? You know what? Okay, so there's two things to this. One, because it's a paragraph tag, you don't typically nest things inside of it except for maybe span. But it looks like you're saying UL, so unordered list having LI. Typically what will happen is that it will inherit those. So everything inside would have like a blue colored text, unless for whatever reason there is another declaration block that says otherwise. Okay, so this is exactly what happens. Every paragraph will have the color blue. So it selects the specific element in HTML to style with, which is the P element, the paragraph element. And a declaration block is a style applicator for the selected elements within the DOM/HTML document, which it is referenced to. So all correct, love that. Okay, so that was a basic declaration block using a element selector. Now we're looking at class selectors. So if you remember from classes, we had one that was like class equals 100-width. If you want to use a class instead of an element, you just have to put a period right in front. Okay, you just put a period and then you put the class name. The period lets the computer know, like, hey, like, this is a period, so you need to find the elements that have this as a class name. The period means class. Otherwise, it would be looking for an element that said 100 width, and like, I don't think we have an element called 100 width. So this is another example. Can anyone guess what this declaration block does? Can anyone guess what this property and value are based off what the declaration block I have on here? So I'm gonna give it a little bit for people to look at. It's specifying the width for that class, correct. So specifically, it sets the element with the class 100 width to a width of 100 pixels. Okay, next up we have a declaration block, but this is for IDs. Perfect. These are all really great ways for explaining what it is. Okay, so this is for IDs. So instead of a period for class, you use a £, or a hashtag, depending, whatever you call that. Use this, waffle to state that it will be an ID. So it's the ID my name. So can anyone say in their own words, what is this going to do? Also, if you can explain what font weight means, bonus points. So. Okay. Sets the element with the ID of my name, a font weight of 900 bold. This is also like super bold. I think normal is font weight 400, and then bold is font weight 700. So 900 is like mega bold. It's also the max, as far as I know. Okay. So there's a bunch of different, bold is 800. Oh, I thought it was, I think it starts to get, yeah. There's a bunch of different font weights, so it's great for whatever you want to do. You should definitely look into it. And if you're ever like wondering, like, you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many different selectors, there's so many different options. Yes, exactly. And that's the fun part of it. It allows you to do so much with CSS. So the way that you can look more into it is check over here. I have a selectors cheat sheet. I linked something from Free Code Camp. I love Free Code Camp as a resource. There's certifications, there's curriculum, there's just random one-off tutorials and YouTube videos. I'm a big fan of them. So if you're wondering like where to get like the slide so you can find the link, go down to that. If you see the banner going down below, you see hackpack/YFW with Mara 2. That should link to my GitHub where there's slides, and then you can scroll down and find this cheat sheet. Okay, next, pseudo classes. So let's pause really quick. We've done a lot. So let's go ahead and let's practice. Give me 1 second Make sure you go ahead and open up my GitHub down below, hack/YFW with Mara 2. And I'm about to pull that up as well. So we're gonna pull up hack/YFW with Mara 2, and that should take you to the appropriate GitHub, which I will share in just one small second. All right, here we go. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and click here to see the REPL. Then I'm gonna go ahead and open this website. So this is our CSS learning project. This is our worksheet. And we're gonna go through this together so that way we can kind of explore CSS in a small area, and then that way we can build it on top of our other websites later. Light mode with glasses is bold. I usually don't wear glasses, to be honest. I only wear glasses at home. And like usually, honestly, most days I wear contacts. But there's nothing wrong with a little light mode. I actually should probably turn on my lights. So that way I'm not hurting my eyes. A little bit of lighting change. Okay, so the way this is gonna work is we're gonna kind of go through this worksheet together. Feel free to go ahead if you would like, but I will be waiting for you. So first, we're going to work on our selectors. We're using a type selector to make all the paragraphs on the page blue. So how do I do that? What would my declaration block look like? What property, what value am I using? I've learned how to be a teacher. I don't mind counting down the time waiting for y'all. It's actually like a teacher trick just to sit silent. Because I'm live streaming, I don't really sit silent, but I will wait before I move on. So if you're ever in a class, I don't know if y'all ever noticed in like high school or like earlier on, I feel like in high school you start to high school and middle school, you start to really realize like what tricks the teachers are playing. But when they just sit there quiet, I think like teachers count to like 8. And usually by then someone's already like said something or raised their hand or whatnot. If everyone's watching the stream right now, is anyone snacking on anything? Because I know Adam's snacking on some snow. He's munching on some snow. I'm surprised snow is still falling for y'all. I think over here we had snow, I think a couple times 2 weeks ago. Right now they're all up in the mountains. For me, my snack was I had like a Chinese rice dumpling called like dongzi. And I also had pineapple juice. So that was my snacks before we came. Okay. So if you want to use a type selector to make all the paragraphs on the page blue, we're going to use the color property, colon, quotes, blue, end quote. Oh. Let's try refreshing this real quick. There we go. There's no quotes. I lied. No quotes. Just type in blue. Color blue. And if you notice, everything that is a paragraph tag, everything has blue inside of it. So we can also inspect elements, and we can see all this here. You can see that, it says P class second. We can see here's like this list item, and inside that we have P. And we can also see that inside these, there's classes. So class first and class second. So here, I want to make class first the paragraph red. And I want to make the second class have the color green. So now everything that has this second class is now green, okay? and everything that has this first class is now orange, but every other paragraph past that is just blue. So this is what I mean by if you have something more specific, if you have something more specific, then it will overwrite things. So it goes elements, classes, and then IDs. So elements are super broad, classes are just a little more specific, and then IDs are super, super specific. Okay. So, for example, now we're using an ID selector. So let's make that third paragraph orange. And if you notice, instead of blue, it's now orange. It's also the only one to have this new orange color because it's the only one to have the ID first, third. Okay. So I highly recommend checking this out. You can also, if you click on something here, you can actually go on the side and you see styles. So you'll actually see that you have the paragraph tag and it has the color blue, but that's crossed out because that's not active, because on top of that, you have the first class and it has the color red. I'm glad. I hope CSS honestly is so tricky. I feel like I'm learning something new every day whenever I use it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close inspect elements for now, and then we'll just focus on the rest of the screen. So another thing that we can do is let's go over kind of properties. So for example, we've been working mostly with the color property. We're gonna see what else there is to offer. And if you're wondering, hey, I'm working with HTML and CSS, and I have a bunch of elements where I want to apply the same change to. Do I have to do it in each individual declaration block? No, you don't. You can actually combine things just by using commas. So if you see that, commas. So here we're going to use the font family property. The font family property is really great because that's how you change fonts. So you can do font family. There's like 5 defaults. So there's sans serif. So if you notice, now it's sans serif. If you don't know what serif versus sans serif is, so serif, this is serif. Serif is default. You'll see that like there's like these little tails on everything. So if you notice, like the P has like the little whoosh. But if I make it sans serif, sans I think means without in French, then there's no little tails anymore. It's just straight. Okay. There's also, what else is there? There's cursive, which is, I guess, it looks more like Comic Sans than cursive, but there's fantasy. That also doesn't really look like a fantasy font. And then there is, what else is there? Oh, this is a good tangent. Okay, hold on. Sans etymology. Okay. Oh, let's get rid of ungroup. Okay. Sans etymology. It is Old French. I think in Latin, it's seen. So, sign, seen, I don't know. I learned Latin once, but it was a long time ago. Okay, so what we're actually going to go ahead and do, of course, we have a couple options here, but I'm going to stick with Arial sans serif. Again, you don't have to do the quotes, sorry. Arial sans serif. So basically what this is doing is it's saying like, hey, do this font first, and if you don't have that font available, do this. This is really great, especially when you start to say, if you read the etymology thing, it said it originally came from Latin. I mean, facts. I mean, French came from Latin, so we love Latin. Latin really died. No, I don't know, people I guess maybe still speak it. You have like the Pope, I think he does speeches in it, and then I don't know anyone who's casually walking around speaking Latin, but hopefully it stays alive. Okay, but so this whole practice of specifying a specific font and then specifying one of the defaults is great, especially as you start importing your own fonts. So it's actually really easy to do Google Fonts. As you start importing your own fonts, if you find that for whatever reason that font is no longer available or the internet connection is unstable, it can then default to another font. So if Arial doesn't exist, it then moves on and just does sans serif. Okay, next, we can also go ahead and use the font size property. So first, let's make all the paragraphs 18 px. So if you notice, it's a little larger. You can kind of play around with the size a little bit, make it really big, make it really small, but I'll just keep it to 18. So slightly a little larger so it's easier for you to see. Then we can also make all the headings 36. So, we do font size again, and then we just do 36. And it grows right before our eyes. If anyone's wondering how I make this kind of grow right before your eyes, that's because I have a little CSS in this website. So I'm gonna I inspected element. I'm gonna go to sources. I'm gonna go here. You can see my index.html that has all my HTML. And you can also see my CSS. So here I have this asterisk, which basically means everything. And everything has a transition, like all directions have a transition of half a second. So that way it makes it a little easy on the eyes, you know? Okay, next we're going to use the color property to make all links pink and all visited links purple. So first, I'm not going to click this link because it says don't click this link, and then I'm going to click this link. Okay, so now I've clicked this link. So I've visited that page. So I'm going to do color pink, and then color purple. Ooh. It's not letting me visit it. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna try refreshing this. Also, because all of this is like done on the web page, you'll see the old changes disappear. I'm not sure why, but it's saying it's not letting me, because usually default, if I visit it, it's purple. But it looks like none of these color change only affects the A. So I'm not going to worry too much about this, but for like the sake of time, but this right here is called a pseudo class, which we'll be getting into. It's just a way to kind of further describe an element. So this is an anchor tag, a link, and after a link has been visited, then you want to apply these certain properties, which would be color purple, but I'm not sure why that's not working right now. Let me know if it's working on your screen or if by chance it's just mine. I'm just gonna go back and add these in a little bit, just mostly like the size. Okay, that way it zooms in a little bit for you. Okay, next we'll go over kind of like the layout, kind of these CSS properties that allow you to change how things are organized on your screen. So the way we're going to do that is that there's a couple different things. So we're going to use the display property, display, how things are displayed on the screen. And we are going to use the values block and inline. Okay. So block elements are displayed one on top of each other, like building blocks. This is by default. So for example, you'll notice that every single one of these like new lines of text are one right after another, one on top and on top and on top on top. It's kind of vertical, like a column, like having building blocks, Legos stacked on top of each other. So it's also block is typically default. So if I do display block, you're going to see that these pop right on top of each other. And see. So before, so this is actually like a little tidbit, not super important to know, but by default, everything goes on top of each other except for the span element, which is typically in line. So I just gave it the class block paragraph. So since now I made it display block, it overwrote the default display. So now it's a block paragraph, and it's stacked for one right on top of each other. Okay. Inline paragraph, let's do display inline. So this doesn't. So if we go here, let's see. Oh. If we go here, and let's see. Inline paragraph. Inline elements are displayed all in line with each other like a queue at a store when you're in line. So if you notice right here, nothing happened, nothing changed because the default behavior for a span is already in line. Perfect. Okay. Next, what we can do is we can use the width and the height properties to kind of change how much space something can take up. In this case, we're going to do width is 200 px, and width is 200 px for all second things. And then I'm going to do a semicolon. The semicolon is going to separate our CSS lines. I'm going to do height 100 px. So if you notice, this is going to affect, scroll down. This is going to affect the second classes. So let's go here. So you'll see that here, this is P class second, right here. If you notice, it's a little smushed. Then if you go into the style here, we'll see that the second class has a width 200 px and a height 100 px. Okay, next we can play around with margin and padding. So I'm going to make the margin. So actually, let me show you this cool thing. So if you're never sure what exactly is the difference between margin and padding, you have this thing. This blue part is the content. The space around it before the border, inside the border, is padding. The space outside the border is margin. Okay? So you have margin, the border, padding, and then the content. So I'm gonna give it a border. This is optional, but just to help you see it. That is 3 pixels thick, dashed, and let's make it a fun color like chartreuse. I think I spelled chartreuse wrong. Chartreuse? Chartreuse. Okay, this way you can see the margin and padding a little bit better. So margin, I'm gonna give it 20 px. So that gets the space all around it. Then the padding, I'll give it 10 px. And that fills in the space inside the border. Okay, let's stop. So now you'll actually see it for everything because that affects everything with the third class. Next, we have these kind of advanced techniques. So we'll go back to the slides for just a second. Give me 1 second to go click around and find them for you. Okay. Oop. Found them for you. Here we are. Okay, so this is where we stopped earlier, just because I wanted to take a break and kind of go through what we had before. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions about the CSS that we've gone through so far? I know for some of y'all it's a refresher. I don't know if for any of you it's a new concept, but just let me know. Okay. At any point you have questions, feel free to send it into the chat. So what we'll be doing is we're going to be working with 2 extra things just that really give an extra like oomph to your code, okay? So one is pseudo classes. This is really great for visual interaction. HTML elements have special states that occur when a user interacts with them. So you can have something like hover or active. So say you've ever been on a website and you click a tab, like on the website, and you notice that the tab you're on looks a little bit different than the other tabs that you see. That's because it has the active pseudo class. Or if you notice that whenever your mouse goes over something, it looks a little bit different. That's because it has the hover pseudo class. So we'll play around with that a little bit. Okay, media queries. These are great for responsive design. So typically when you're working with CSS and you do something like you say width equals 200 pixels. The width is 200 pixels whether you're on a big, massive TV monitor the size of the wall, 200 pixels, or if you're on your phone, 200 pixels. Even though the number is still the same, 200 pixels, it looks a little bit different depending on each screen. Ooh, Adam, I'm a little jealous. I kind of want a chocolate orange. Just thinking about that right now. I went to like the farmer's market or like Pike Place in Seattle, and they were selling like these chocolate covered cherries. So I obviously bought one because chocolate fruit, amazing. Okay. So media queries. If you have something that's like 200 pixels, it will be on the same thing for no matter how large the screen is or how small the screen is. This is like okay, but it doesn't really have the responsive design. Think about like your favorite website to go on or like even social media. You'll find that when you go on your phone, it looks different than when you go on your computer. And honestly, it should, because it's a different style of screen. It's a different screen. Favorite website? melon.blahaj gang lol. You know, if it's responsive, remind me at the end of this and we'll go on stream together and see it out. Okay. So media queries are a way for you to get around this, a way for you to be like, hey, if the screen's actually smaller, can you change up the design a little bit? This is how websites are mobile friendly. Okay. So now that's it. We'll go back to we'll go back to our beautiful, beautiful worksheet before I give y'all another worksheet to kind of like try on your own, and then we'll go through it and we'll share it together. Okay. So we're on exercise 4. Ooh, I'm on exercise 4. Y'all are now on exercise 4. So this is called advanced techniques. So essentially we just have 2 questions here. One that is going to go over pseudo classes, and another one that is going to go over media queries. So first we are going to use a pseudo class to change the color of the first paragraph to red when the mouse is hovering over it. So first I use the class first, okay? Then I use the pseudo class hover. And the way I do that is right after the selector that I first have, I put a colon and then the pseudo class name. So in this case, it's going to be hover. So we go here and new color red. And look. Isn't that fun? Wow. It changes. Okay. So that's all it is for the pseudo class. It's way easier than it looks, but you can do some really cool things. So for example, what I could do is I can make font size 100. I gotta give it 100 point. This glitch. So if you notice, it glitched out a little bit because my mouse kept getting off of it. But look, then it gets small. It's a little hard to keep hovering over it as it grows, but see? So it's good for like kind of transitions. You'll have to like play around with it a little bit, but I love using it especially for images. Okay, next we're going to use a media query. So a media query to make the below center line when the screen is narrower than 500 pixels. So an easy way to make your screen narrower than 500 pixels is of course like shrinking your screen down. But let's say you like don't really care to do that. You can actually right click, do inspect. You can't see my right clicking, but if you do right clicking to inspect, then you go right here to toggle device emulation. You see this right here. Then now you can do the dimensions of like an iPhone 12 Pro. If you notice, this code is not super mobile friendly, but it is now skinny enough for this media. So let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. Ooh. It will not let me scroll down. Okay. So this is super, super, super tiny, and that's a-okay. Let's actually see if we can change this up a little bit. Style, font, size, 100 px. Can I make that grow? Let me see. What element do I want? I want it to be style, but might not be able to do it, unfortunately. Oh, here I can edit here. Font size. Let's go ahead. Oh, font size, and let's do large. Or let's do 200 point. Oh, that's a little too large. Let's play around with that a little bit more. Let's do 50 point. Okay, that's a little nicer. Okay, so if we look at this right now, this lorem ipsum is now left aligned, but we want to make it so if our width is smaller than 500 pixels, we want to actually make this center aligned. So the way you start that out is you do @media. This goes to your computer. Hey, we're doing a media query here. Then in parentheses, you're going to say, what is your condition? So this media query is only going to affect things that are smaller than 500 pixels wide. The max width that this media query affects, the max width is 500 pixels. So that means this only affects things that are 500 pixels wide or less. So think like a phone screen. So if I do center me, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do text align center. Ooh. See, now that might be a little tricky, so I can also mess with this here. But the way you do it is text align center. Now, because this is a because this is like a text box for the worksheet, it may be a little finicky, but this is how you would do it in a CSS file. Do I have a Blahage yet? I actually don't. I don't have a Blahage yet. I think I live 30 minutes from IKEA. I went there once. The last time I went to IKEA, water got into my car, and so my car broke down. So maybe I have some odd feelings towards IKEA. But the Blahage is super cute. I do, on the other hand, I just received a goldfish. At work, there is this like email list called like free stuff, and I'm on it because I love free stuff. This guy sends out this email that goes like, hey, I have like a tank, I have like a filter, I have a bubbler, I have like fish, like I have like little rocks, I have fish food, whatever, giving it away for free. It's about like $100 worth of stuff. And then he goes, optional, I also have a goldfish. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, with my friend was visiting me for the weekend and my husband was sitting across from me, and I go, do you want a goldfish? Do you want a fish tank? And my husband's like, yeah. And I'm thinking that he's like kind of joking. So I asked like 4 or 5 more times, and he's like, yeah. So within like 5 minutes, I'm like emailing this guy back. I'm like, we'll take the tank and the fish. And so 3 hours later, we went to go pick it up. And long story short, I am now a mother to a fish named Celsius. A fish cam? Oh my god. No, I could do that sometimes. Like the first like day I just got him, I just like put my chin on, he's like on a bookshelf. Put my chin there, and I just like watching him swim. Hello, welcome. But honestly, I love the fish. My husband's like, we should get like a school of minnows, and I'm like, we should get some plants. And we're also both agreed that we should get a snail to help with cleaning. And it's like, this free thing is going to turn expensive really fast. I cannot imagine our electric bill right now because we have like 3 things plugged in. Okay, so that's like the basic stuff for CSS. A full ecosystem, that's right. If we can make this a full ecosystem that it's like self-preserving, that is honestly the goal. Like my best friend, her dad has like a bunch of saltwater aquariums. And it just, at one point, he had like 6 tanks that were probably like 20 gallons each, 20, 30 gallons each. And we're over here with like a 10-gallon tank. And I'm like, whoo, this is a lot. So, but yeah, I love my fish. Same Celsius, like the energy drink. Okay, so now after now that we've gone through like the practice, we can go ahead and we have some additional time practice. So, cute little puppy. Makes you want to do it, right? And then a few additional things. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is that I'm going to give you, hold on, timer, paragraph, timer, font size, 100 pt. Is that right? Okay, so just to let y'all know, there's this timer here, and I have this box that you can put all your CSS in. Oh, I was wrong. It is ID time. Okay. So I have this text box here. You can change the size and whatever, but you put in your CSS there and you click apply, and it's gonna put your CSS on this page. Okay? So for example, you just saw me, I went to the ID time, which is what this is, and I made the font size to 100 point. I'm about to make it 300 point, just make it huge. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to start the timer, and I'm going to give you all 10 minutes to practice. I'll probably hop off stream for a little bit, and then at the end of 10 minutes, we'll come back together and we'll work through this together, and if we have time afterwards, we'll play a little bit of Flexbox Froggy, which is like my favorite CSS game. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start this now. See you soon. I'm popping back in to let you all know that you have about 20 seconds if you're going through this challenge. So we'll go ahead and now it's 10 seconds now. And it is 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and reset this timer. Time is up. Okay, go ahead and get rid of that CSS, or I'm gonna go ahead and refresh my page now. So, for anyone who was for anyone who went through this, is there anywhere that people got stuck or where people ended at the end of the 10 minutes? Let me know in the chat and we can also go through it together. Okay, so H2. Make H2 into your favorite color. My favorite color is going to be Dodger Blue. There's a bunch of pre-stated like color names, including Dodger Blue. So that's how I'm going to do that. There's also 5 different font families. Let's make the list titles with the class name list title bold. So font weight 700. And let's change all the list items to my favorite font family, which I'm going to say is monospace. Go ahead and apply that. Okay, next up, body. Everything on the screen is inside the body element. So let's make the background into our favorite color. So if I do background or body, and I do background, and let's make it blanched almond. Perfect. Next, we have pseudo classes. Pseudo classes are a great way to add visual interaction to your website without having to learn JavaScript. Make all H3 elements change size when you hover over them. So H3, hover, font size. Let's make it something not too big. Let's make it 30. 30. So this is H3. You notice it's a little big. It grows a little bit. Okay, next. So this link takes you to the pseudo classes section, and this link goes nowhere. Let's see if we can make those links 2 different colors. So let's make link visited. Let's make it color green. Let's see if that works. For whatever reason, link visited hover class is not working right now. Let's go ahead, actually, let's Google why that might be. Visited pseudo class not working. This is the best part of programming. Just Googling things and Stack Overflow. Okay, so the set color property of the pseudo class does not work well, and the background property is just dead. What is wrong? Let's see why. You won't be able to change the transparency so as you otherwise use the default of the background. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily apply, but we can skip it for now. If we're a little stuck, we can come back towards it later. Okay, next, for input, let's use the focus pseudo class and see what happens. So, put focus background. Let's make it red. Oh, so when you focus and you click it, the background now turns red. So that's something that you can do with inputs. So if you think about if you have a site that has some kind of input into it, if you have them click into it, do you want something to be different? Do you want it to be a different color? Things like that. Okay. Next up, using the ID dog pick in the active pseudo class, change this image when it's clicked on, and then we can also use a black and white effect. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy that right there. So we'll do ID dog pick active, and so when it's black and white, we'll do that. Well, also, I want to change the width to be like 400. 400 pixels. Yep. Maybe even smaller. Let's make that 200. Oh. So, if you notice when it's clicked on, that's the only time that it changes. So if you notice, now it's black and white, now it's in color. Black and white and small, now it's in color. Wow. Okay. Then we'll go into timer. We can play around with the timer a little bit. It has the ID time. So ID time, let's play around. So I'm going to make the size, the font size a bit larger. What did I have it before? 100 point? And then I'm going to make the background white. I'm going to give a border of, let's say, 5 pixel wide, solid black. I'm going to give it a padding of 20 pixels. I'm going to give it a margin of 30 pixels. And let's see where we are. Oh, and let's also make the width fit content. I think that's something. There we go. So the width is fit content. And now we have a little cuter of a timer. But we can play around with that a little bit more. We can make the color. We can make it purple. And we can make the font. We can make the color white. So we can change it. Make it look like a little bit of an eggplant. If you want to make it look a little more Barney, you can use some chartreuse. Crazy. Okay. Next up, there's also something called Flexbox. Maybe if you're familiar with CSS, you might not know what Flexbox is. I love Flexbox personally. I think it is really great. And it's another way that we can put together things on a page. So we're not rearranging a whole website right now because I think that would be a lot of overhead, but we will play with some Flexbox Froggy. So let's click the image here. Okay, so clicking the image lands you to this page called I think it froze for a sec. Okay, it's taking me a sec. I'm gonna close out all these tabs. Maybe my laptop just can't handle it. Okay. Can y'all hear me all right? Try to check. No, we're having a little bit of connection issues. I'm hoping that it's not too frozen. Let me know, can you hear me a bit better now, or was I fine before? I'm just connecting, trying to see. Trying to see if that maybe helps closing things. Hi, Indigo Wizard. I hope you're doing well. I know it's like 1 a.m. for, I don't know, maybe 2 a.m. for you now? Maybe 3 now. I don't know. It's a bit early. Okay. I'm gonna try to, I'll be right back. I'm gonna try to fix my camera issues. In the meantime, try playing this game, Flexbox Froggy. And then we'll also work on it a bit together. So go ahead and get started, and I'll meet you in a sec once I get everything back to running smoothly. Okay, I'm hoping it's a little bit better now. If you can help me out and let me know how it is from your side, I would appreciate it. Okay. So there's a couple things that I'm going to do. So I've already played Flexbox Froggy. It seems like some of y'all also have. So I'm going to go, I just went into the settings and I'm going to do expert with no directions and random levels, which I don't remember if I know Flexbox well enough, but we're gonna try it. You can also change it to like a different language if your native language isn't English, and that makes it a little easier for you to understand. Okay, so there's a lot of different options for Flexbox Froggy. Of course, if you haven't used it before, I highly recommend doing settings and then doing beginner, because then it will give you directions. But I'm gonna see what I remember. Justify content, because that changes where things are on like the x-axis. Justify content, end. That's it. Okay. Then it can get a lot more complex. As you can see here, this is a lot more complex. So, okay. So it does flex wrap. I'm going to do flex direction. I might need some help, so if y'all can help me out here, I would really appreciate it. Flex direction column. Oh, column reverse. Okay, that gets me the right order. And then I have to do justify content center. No, it's not justify content center because it's column. So if I want it, I would have to make it align content center. Okay. Oh, this is level 24. So we're skipping to the really hard stuff. So I have to figure out how, if you don't know what Flexbox Froggy is, it sounds like some of y'all do. If you don't know what Flexbox Froggy is, the point is to get the frog to the matching lily pad. So, and you do that all using Flexbox. So I'm gonna go back to beginner, and I'm gonna head back to level 2, just to make sure that we're going in a little slow, dipping our toes in for anyone who doesn't know Flexbox Frog. Okay, so I want to center this on the x-axis, which just means justify content center. And that gets everything right on top. Perfect. Then I'm gonna do justify content as well, and there's a lot of different options, but I know that I want space between because I know what space between looks like, and it looks like that. It's also kind of, if you think about it, there's space between. Oh, lies. I want space around. So it has a little bit of space on the edges. Okay. Next, this one is going to be space between because I don't need space around the edges. I just need space between them. Next up, we're going to use align items. This is going to do like perpendicular, so it's going to do vertical. So align items end because it's at the bottom. Then we're going to make it center on both the x-axis with justify content. And then align items, we're also going to make it center. Next up, we have to get it centered in the middle. So justify content center. And then align items, it's going to be at the end. Okay. Oh, this is wrong. This is a great time to explain space between and space around. So first, I'm going to do space between. Space between and space around look very similar. So space between, you'll notice that you have the largest gap in between the frogs, okay? In between the frogs. So the left is pushed all the way to the left, the right is pushed all the way to the right, and then the yellow is just right in the center. Now, when you do space around, you'll notice that just like space between, you have space between the frogs, okay? But you'll notice that this green one, this frog right here, isn't pushed all the way over here. There's a little bit of space before you have the frog, and then some more space in between frog in the center, more space in between frog, and then a little bit of space before you hit the right side. So space between is just the space between them, whereas space around gives a little more padding on like the outside, so the left and the right. Hope that answers the question. Okay. What's also cool with Flexbox is you can do something called flex direction. So instead of just having things in a row, which is what Flexbox is great for, you can have things in a row, you can have them row reverse, which is the, a flipped version of the row, or a column. So if I'm going to show you what that looks like, we'll start with column. Okay, that's the column. New column reverse. So instead of the red being at the bottom, it's at the top. And it starts at the bottom. But default is row. But what we want here is row reverse. Okay. So this one, can anyone tell me what direction I want this to be in? What direction do I want this to be in? So I want this to be top to bottom, which means that I want it to be in a column. So yes, column was absolutely right, because that meant that it was top. Instead of going out like this, I wanted it to go down like this. Perfect. Okay, this next one. Okay, so we'll do flex direction and we'll do row reverse. Okay, so now it's in the right order, but how do I want justify content to be? What should justify content be? This one's a little tricky because you have to think around what you already have. So it's row reverse. Default is start. So this is where it gets tricky. So look at this. Notice that when you set the direction to a reversed row or column, start and end are also reversed. So we can try, oh, what is it? Oh wait, no, you're right. I lied. You're right. It is start. Yeah, so let's push it. Okay. So now we have flex direction, and we know this is a column. We'll have it a column. What is justify content? Does anyone know why we're using justify content? Flexbox Froggy is honestly really great for learning this. If you're new to CSS, I recommend playing through this at least twice. The first time you learn a lot and it's going to take a lot of time, but the second time you're really focusing on honing your skills and just kind of like memorizing what does what. Because honestly, once you like yes, 100%, you can always Google things when it comes to CS, but for things like this, if you can memorize what this does, or at least understand the patterns, it will help you do things so much quicker rather than having to Google search for everything. Okay, let's try this. And yes, amazing. Okay. Okay, so next, we're on level 12, y'all. Okay. So flex direction. Tell me what flex direction is and tell me what justify content is. So remember, flex direction is like, okay, so justify content, space between, and then flex direction, column. Look at you. You're a pro. Oh, no. Psych. I got too excited. But the colors are switched. So the bottom needs to be the top. How do we do that? Yeah, there we go. Okay. As soon as it pops on the screen, let me know what you're doing. Okay, we need flex direction. We need justify content. We need align items. So we need to reverse it. So we'll row reverse. We need to center it. So we'll center it. And then one more thing. What else do we do? It's when it gets tricky, you gotta do a lot. What one more thing that we have to do? Look at you. Okay, let's. I love the teamwork. Okay, same thing. Okay, so this we're going to do. So this is what we're working on with like classes. So the yellow class is this yellow frog. So now we're using the order property. So by default, everything has an order of 0, but you can use the order property to change where it is. So negative brings it first, and positive brings it last. So we want to move the yellow one to the end. How do we do that? What should order be? This is tricky because it's a new concept. What should order be? It can be either -2, -1, 0, 1, or 2. I mean, it could be any number, but we're going to stick to just those. And this is a new one. So let's play around. What's negative? -2 brings it forward. So -1 also brings it forward. 0 keeps it exactly where it needs to be. However, 1 brings it to the end. Good job. Okay, so now how do we make red? What order should red be? Should it be negative? Should it be positive? By default, it's 0. Okay, let's try some negative. So you could do -1, you could do 2, you could do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, as long as it's negative. Because that just means that it's before 0, which is what the default is for the green. Okay, so another property you can apply to individual items is align self. This property accepts the same values as align items and its value for the specific item. So align self takes in the same values as align items. I'm seeing end. Nice. We're getting through this. Okay. So now we got to combine order with align self to get these yellow frogs where they should be. So how do we do that? End and one. One, end. We can also use two, just as long as it's positive, that's what matters. Okay, now we're gonna be using flex wrap. So flex wrap would, you notice how all these little frogs are smaller than usual and they're a little smushed? Flex wrap allows you to automatically take whatever would fit in and then move that into like a new line. So flex wrap, I'm just gonna do this one for y'all. You can do wrap. So now it's no longer smushed, okay? It fits lily pads and everything. So now for this, we need to use flex direction and we need to use flex wrap. So what did it do? So what did it do? So we look here. So if you notice they're so smushed right now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So wait, did I count right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, we have 7. So when I do wrapped, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then instead of smushing it, instead of making it look so small, we go to a new line and we find 6 and 7. Okay. Let's do column. And then what should be there for wrap? It did not increase the frogs. It actually has this, it made the frogs bigger because if you notice right here, they look so small, but the number of frogs are the same. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap. So if you notice, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 frogs that are normally the size of these lily pads. So, but now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, so a total of 15, same number as before, but now because they're able to spread out, they aren't so small. We're doing really good, y'all. Okay, so sometimes CSS gets a little tedious, especially with all the different lines of code you have to do. So instead of having to do flex direction and flex wrap, you can actually just do flex row and specify like what you want. So flex flow row wrap is the same thing as doing flex direction row and flex wrap wrap. So what do we put in flex flow? Actually, I'll show you. Okay, so we did column wrap. We're gonna do the same thing, column wrap. It's the same answer, it's just one line of code instead of two now. Okay. Next, we have align content. What should this be? So there's a lot of different, there's like align content and align items. So align content determines the spacing between the lines, while align items determines how items as a whole are aligned within the container. So if there's only one line, align content doesn't do anything. But when there's multiple things, it'll change the spacing. So let's try start. So it moved everything to the start. Okay, align content, what do we do now? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh, we already did this one in the beginning. Now this one is the hardest. Okay. So I'm gonna need your help for this one. This one's really, really, really tricky. We can use everything that we've learned before, but we have to do it in 4 lines of code. So because I want the least amount of code, I think flex flow is a good choice because it combines both flex direction as well as flex wrap. So it looks like you're saying reverse. So I'm gonna try column reverse maybe. And then let's also try wrapping that. Okay. Do I want to do column reverse? Do I want just column? Seems like column reverse gets me closer. Now what's next? Oh. Okay. Now we're gonna add in align content center. It looks like align content center got pushed more into the middle than it, but I want it more on the outside. So what's something that's going to put space in between the frogs? I want more spacing between the frogs. Okay. You're saying remove the wrap. So we're gonna say no wrap. So the no wrap gets a little farther. We want the wrap because then we know it separates just how we have it here. Okay, space between. Let's try. Okay. We can try order 2, but the only reason I'm not saying like yes to order 2 is because that changes the order for everything and therefore it changes the order to nothing, if that makes sense. Okay, so you're saying, okay, let's try this. I'll cut this for now. There's multiple ways to do this. So column reverse, align content center. Doesn't look like it's working. Are you by chance, I think you're doing level 23, but we're on level 24. So make sure that so instead of just like, so this is the closest we are right now. Oop. This is the closest we are right now. So what else do we have to do? It looks like we have to try to get these like moved to the other side. Maybe change something. And we also want it centered. So since it's a column and I want it centered vertically, I'll try justify content, see if this works. Okay. Justify, oh, looks like you had the same idea. Perfect. Now, how do I flip this? How do I flip this? Let's try align items. We haven't used that yet. Let's try start. Or let's try end. Try center. Not really doing anything. This one's hard. Honestly, I looked up the answers the first time I did it, so I don't really remember how to do it, so I need your help. What else can we try? We already have justify content. We have flex direction, flex wrap, flex row. Okay. We don't have align items. We don't have align self. We don't have align. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. So flex flow, and what we're missing here, let me try my mouse. Find this. Reverse. See, I forgot. I always forget about wrap reverse. Great job. So if you click next, there we are. And they also have like a bunch of other kinds of like games. So that's really cool. I really love Flexbox Froggy. I think it's a great way to learn. And so now we'll go back to the worksheet for a quick minute. Um, and you can play around a little bit with Flexbox here. I have all these rows. So we could do things like Flexbox, practice. We'd give it display flex, and then we can make it so we apply this, and then makes it, oh, you can't see that. Give me a second, I'm gonna make it so y'all can see this a little bit better. Oh, I know what I can do. I can simply add margin bottom 100 pixels. Oh, is that not how that works? Margin 100 pixels there. Now you can see it. So if you want to play around with Flexbox a little bit more, you can on here, so you can see everything a little bit easier. You can make red. Let's try. What if we make the order of red into -3? And then what if we made the order of blue into 3? And now we can see that we can like sort them, things like that. We can also make Flexbox cell. We can make the stuff inside of it look a little bit different. So Flexbox cell, let's give it like display flex. Let's do justify content start. See what happens. Nothing really happens, but you can kind of play around a little bit. It's like a little playground. I love using this to learn Flexbox because I think it's a great way to experiment. But as for today, that is it. I hope y'all have a basic understanding of CSS as well as a way to, I also hope y'all are thinking about how to make your HTML websites even better. There's also this really great library, CSS library that someone showed me yesterday. Indigo Wizard, I don't know if you're still here, but I really appreciate you showing me this. But it's this fun CSS framework that allows you to like make everything look a little retro. And I think it'd be really cool if someone made a text adventure game using this, because I think this would just look so nice. But yeah, so I highly recommend if anyone wants to like make a text adventure game. Look how cute this is. I love Kirby. I'm also like playing a lot of Pokemon right now too. Like Costco sold Pokemon Violet and Scarlet for like $90 for 2, which is like pretty cheap for like, it was a discount for a Pokemon game. And so my husband plays Pokemon Scarlet and I play Pokemon Violet, and now I'm trying to catch up to him, so I've been playing a lot. And I have Kirby socks. I don't know. I never had Nintendo growing up, so like now I'm exploring it. But so, it is called, here, let me see the link. It's called NES CSS. I just Googled it and it's like the first thing. Actually, I Binged it. Shout out to Microsoft Bing. But if you want to check it out, here it is. Okay. Thank you, Indigo Wizard, for showing that to me at yesterday's stream. I think it's really cool. And hopefully you can go to bed soon. If anyone's interested in more Global Hack Week things, after this, in 10 minutes, we'll have creating and maintaining diversity in tech spaces, which is super cool. I love that. And we also will have more things tonight, like IoT boilerplate projects, which is honestly so cool. My favorite thing is if you want to practice your HTML and CSS skills and you're still up in 4 hours, there's a No Light mini event. Highly recommend. And there's so much more for the day. If you want to come to part 3 of this series tomorrow, it will be at the same time on day 5, same time right here, building your first website part 3. and we'll be going over JavaScript and how to make a very simple higher lower number guessing game using some JavaScript, and I'll already have the HTML templated out for you so we can really focus on the JavaScript. But yeah, I'm glad to see things are I'm glad to see some things are staying consistent. I hope, Adam, you're staying safe with your snow. I hope it's refreshing. Also, I'm here for controversial Pokemon games. I've actually never played any Pokemon. This is my first Pokemon game. I don't know. Yeah, my husband like grew up really liking it, but I don't know what Showdown is. I'm gonna assume it's like a way to play old Pokemon, but maybe I'll check it out. I don't know. I like the Pokemon. I think they're kind of cute, but I do miss like the old 2D style. I think that was really cool, especially also when it was 8-bit as well. But okay. Also, I love Adam. You're going for passing, which honestly is a standard. I highly recommend getting to 100, but sometimes you do the best you can. And I've definitely gotten to 40s before in my CS classes. But thank you all so much for attending. I don't want to run it over into the other streams. I'm glad, Adam, I'm glad you're striving for 100. Oh, it sounds like you're not procrastinating on your homework, which is actually even way better. So love that. Yeah, caffeinated water. It is existing. Now I'm drinking regular water because I'm more awake today. But I want to say thank you all for showing up on the stream today. Hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow. And I hope everyone has a good night, a good morning, a good day, wherever they are. And I hope you have the chance to learn more about websites as you go on. And I can't wait to see everyone's portfolio, especially at the end of Global Hack Week. Okay. Good night, y'all. I hope to see you tomorrow. Okay. Ooh. Okay, bye. Good night.